Welcome in, everybody. This interview with Nathan Zegura, live from the NFL Scouting Combine, is brought to you by our friends over at City Barbecue. Go get some barbecue. It's a good time.
Love barbecue.
Yeah, come on. Nathan Zegura, how's it going? How are you?
It's good. It's very busy, very productive, a little bit hectic here in Indy, a lot going on. And obviously for us, we haven't had a first round pick in 3 years, and we're back with the first round pick, and we've got the number 2 overall pick, and obviously quarterback a huge need. And so it's been fun kind of getting everybody's opinions here on the top 2 quarterbacks, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and kind of getting to talk. I talked with Kevin Stefanski today on Browns Daily, Andrew Berry yesterday. We had Lance Zierlein on. I've talked to Dane Brugler. We're going to talk with Greg Cosell, actually, right when we're done with this podcast. Charles Davis, Ryan Wilson from CBS. So we've been talking to a lot of the draft experts, and it's been really fun, honestly. Been really fun.
Well, it's been quite a while since the Browns have been in a position to not even just draft a quarterback, but to draft in the first round. I think the last one was Greg Newsome, and that was a virtual pick. That was post-COVID, so it was kind of chaotic. So paint the picture. What's it like to be in Indy right now? I want to get your thoughts, obviously, on the quarterback situation, but just paint the picture for us right now, because I know it's probably quite hectic and nice to kind of reunite with a lot of the people there.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about it. Yesterday, for me, my combine peaked early yesterday. I got to spend about 30 minutes with just myself, Charles Davis, and Greg Cosell talking quarterbacks, talking tape, talking a bunch of football and life. And that's what's so special about it to me is everybody in the NFL world is here. Everybody. You're seeing some coaches not come now, but I mean, for the most part, every coach and GM, every scout in the league is here. All the people who cover the league, all the people that, you get to know and get to respect and befriend around the league and just kind of talk ball with they're all here. And so that's a very exciting thing. That's my favorite part of the combine. And a lot of what goes on, here that I would say is the most important stuff or the most interesting is not stuff that you see on TV. It's the stuff that happens, out and around Indy at prime, at midnight in the bars and people talking to JW Marriott. Those are the places people go. So I love it here. There's a lot of energy, and it's one of those things where everybody's got hope again, right? And for the Browns, the combine has kind of been, it's still very important, but when you don't have a first round pick, and then, some of these cases we didn't have a first or a second round pick, it's different. Now you're picking second and 30. You got 5 of the top 102 picks. It's an opportunity. It's a draft that can really kind of reverse course on what was a very disappointing season. And so, yeah, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of anticipation. There's a lot of obviously opinions and very strong opinions about what the Browns should do. But one of the cool things is you kind of get here now and you've got a little bit of a consensus on what's going on. And on one hand, it's, most people think that the Titans are not going to take a quarterback at 1, that they're going to take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, that they are open to move out with, the Giants and the Raiders as being, possible teams that would come up for a quarterback. I think the Browns have to be considered a possibility to just go get to number 1. I think we all remember 2016 when the Titans had the first pick, the Browns had the second. Browns really wanted Jared Goff. They knew the Titans weren't taking a quarterback, and boom, the Rams jumped up. They end up getting Jared Goff. So there's a lot at play there. Matt Stafford's being talked about with linked to the Giants, and now there's reports that Tom Brady's whining and dining him with the Raiders. So which is crazy that he calls games on Fox. He's an owner and he's able to do these. I don't understand any of it, but so that's those are the big things that affect the Browns the most that you're hearing. And, Adam Schefter reported yesterday, the thing that he's the most certain about in the drafts, the Browns will take a quarterback at 2, which is certainly music to my ears. I think it's the most important thing that they can do this offseason is take that young quarterback. And you're getting kind of a consensus. I would say it's maybe 75% of the people I talk to have Cam Ward as the top quarterback. 25% Shedeur. They like both of them. I think that, you talk about Cam, it's the tools, it's the best arm in this draft, chunk play machine, immensely talented, has gotten better every year, total leader. But there's some concerns like Lance Zierlein kind of compared Brett Favre. He's going to, hurt you as well as help you. But if he does it more, maybe he ends up in, the Hall of Fame like Brett Favre, but he can make those big chunk plays. Whereas Shedeur is kind of field general. And he mentioned, saying he's not Tom Brady, but the way that Tom Brady won by dominating from the pocket, dissecting a defense, being accurate, understanding where the football should go. Those are the things that Shedeur Sanders excels at. And the questions around him are more, his arm isn't the most elite, but it's certainly NFL adequate. It's kind of, is he going to be podcasting every week? Is he going to have, his dad ragging on the coach or the GM if things aren't going well? And so those are the things that they've got to get answered. But everybody here is pretty I think for the most part, definitely thinks that this is a draft where you have an opportunity, number two, to get one of these guys and turn things around. It'll be interesting. As I talked to Kevin Stefanski today, he loves decision-making accuracy and toughness. Well, that sounds a lot like Shedeur, but same time, Cam Ward is a very accurate quarterback and very talented as well. So it's going to be interesting, I think, the next few kind of months to see how these 30 visits go, how these things all play out, and what it ends up looking like.
Great question, Ali. So, here's a question I have. So, great to see you at the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, by the way. That was a great trip.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Jim Donovan. And
that was emotional. Yeah.
I know. I was like, okay, there's not a tear, there's not a dry eye on this house tonight now that we're doing this. I was like, this is supposed to be a celebration. But of course, we all Jim Donovan. My question to you, again, because we do know Andrew Berry is a wheeling and dealing and he knows how to really work a draft. What are your thoughts on a possibility where a team does call the Cleveland Browns at number 2 and says, hey, we want that number 2. And, maybe it is a Will Howard or someone like that the Browns maybe have more interest in, or someone like that at the top of the second. Do you see a scenario like that where the Browns really capitalize on this draft and maybe those top 2 guys aren't their most focused guy and they see more out of another quarterback? What's your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
That would not be my ideal scenario. Just this is me personally talking. I've seen that movie. I've seen us do that many times. You look at, it's hard enough to hit on a quarterback. When you start getting outside of the top of the draft, it becomes harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And so I want to play the odds. I looked at something last year. The top 12 scoring teams in the league, 11 of them had first-round quarterbacks. The exception was Jalen Hurts, who was taken in the second. Of those 11, 10 of them were taken in the top 12 picks. 6 of them, so half of the 12 top scoring teams, were quarterback by quarterbacks that were picked first or second overall. Now, many of those guys are actually on different teams. Jared Goff's on a team that didn't draft him. Baker's on a team that didn't draft him. Sam Darnold's on a team that didn't draft him. But there's something to be said then for that talent, right? The pedigree that comes with that. And that you can't force it, but that nobody here has said, oh, this is like the Kenny Pickett draft where there isn't somebody worthy. These quarterbacks are very much worthy. So, by the way, I'm fine with taking one of them and taking Will Howard in the third. I think that you need as many bites as the apple. This is the most important position in all of sports. And, trading down is great, but those are theoreticals, right? They're theoretical assets that you still have to hit on. The Browns have traded down a billion times. And I can think of, back in 2014, you ended up with 2 first-round picks and moved around, and neither one of those guys even made it through their rookie contract. And the next year you drafted 2 guys in the first round again, and Danny Shelton, Cam Irving played long in the league, but certainly didn't provide the impact. So this is an organization that's had a ton of first-round picks that, quite frankly, haven't really materialized into much. We've taken 3 quarterbacks 22nd overall. None of them have worked out. The Browns have only taken 2 quarterbacks in the top 10 since 1999, Tim Couch and Baker Mayfield. That's it, and maybe that's a reason why we're constantly in this search mode. So that's not, this is just me. The Browns could do that. And what I've always said is, and I believe this asset, this life raft that we were kind of given, picking second after that season and knowing that we've got obviously the Deshaun contract we're going to have to deal with for a few more years to come still, is to get a cheap quarterback. And you can do that in the draft, and to be second, this asset has to turn into a legitimate shot at a highly thought of rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
And the one way to guarantee that is to take one at 2. There are 2 in this draft. Take one at 2, because there's no guarantees next year. Let's say you have, oh man, we've got all these ones now. And I don't know that this is a draft where people are moving that way, where the haul would be that significant. But I don't think Arch Manning's coming out in 26. And let's say Arch Manning is what we all think he is. If a team has the first pick that doesn't have a quarterback, which is probably somewhat likely, they're not. It doesn't matter what you have. They're not trading with you. They're taking Arch Manning. So you're in this position. I don't think we'll be in this position again. We certainly hope we won't be. So I'd want to take advantage of it. I get that. And if you do it right, of course it works out. But we have not done that. It kind of goes back, 2017, we drafted Miles. And now nobody would ever say that was a bad pick, but the fact of the matter is Patrick Mahomes is in that draft. We could have in that draft stayed at 1 and 12 and taken Miles and Deshaun Watson. And maybe if Deshaun Watson plays his whole career in Cleveland, who knows what that looks like, right? It was as good as anybody over the first 4 seasons of his career before all the other things happen and he ends up becoming a Cleveland Brown. But we traded out of that spot. Houston takes Deshaun Watson, and for the first 4 years, boy, that looked really, really good. We traded down, and in that year, we ended up taking 3 players in the first round, and our quarterback pick was in the second round was Deshaun Kaiser. And I think Deshaun was talented. I think he was in a very tough situation, but you would do a lot of things differently in pretty much all these drafts where the Browns traded down and don't take a Ben Roethlisberger, or then because the way I think about it is this: we've had, Myles Garrett, who is arguably the best pass rusher in the league and maybe in the history of the league. When it's all said and done, he'll be considered in that ilk. He'll be a Hall of Famer. Joe Thomas was the best left tackle in the history of the league. And I would say there have been 2 stretches where we've had consensus the best offensive line in the league. We had the best running back in the league for a 4-year period with Nick Chubb. Denzel's been a top, 6 corner in the league for a great period. We won 1 playoff game. We've had 2 winning seasons. Why? Because we haven't had a quarterback. So until we get that right, and people, it's so much safer not to take a quarterback. I was talking, we had Lance Zierlein on Browns Daily today, and I asked him, point blank, like, there are no sure things in this draft. No position is safer than any other position. But we all agree, the one sure thing in the league is if you don't have a quarterback, you can't win. And that's been, unfortunately, the story of the Cleveland Browns for far too long.
For my lifetime. For my entire lifetime. And to think that nearly in my entire lifetime, we've taken 2 quarterbacks in the top 10 of the first round. That's crazy. That is crazy. I know. If there's anything to be said about the National Football League and the landscape that it currently is.
By the way, it's great to be so youthful that your lifetime is only encompassed by this period. I wish that were true for me.
No, the Browns are aging me rapidly, Nathan. They are because of all of my stress. But, to think that the current landscape of the National Football League, if you want to succeed, you have to have a quarterback. If you want to score points, you have to have a quarterback, period, point blank. I mean,
and you have to score to win. It's a different league. You have got to score to win.
Of course, defense wins championships. That matters. But you have to have a quarterback. I want to ask you, how has your perspective changed in the time that you've covered the Browns? You've been to many combines. You've analyzed many quarterbacks. How do you look at quarterbacks now versus maybe even just 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago?
Just, I think the importance of it is bigger than ever. The days of, and this is like going back even further than my time with the Browns at the beginning, but like the notion that a team is going to win a Super Bowl with like Trent Dilfer or Brad Johnson, like that's not going to happen anymore. People, Jalen Hurts is not a great quarterback. I was 3rd in the MVP voting 2 years ago. And he is unique in terms of his ability, the fact that every 1st and 10 is 1st and 9. So you need to have that guy. Think about our division. You've got Lamar and Joe Burrow. And just kind of to answer your question in a shorter period, like Lamar Jackson would never go 32nd in a draft.
Never.
Now. Same exact stats, same exact profile of them. Even Bill Polian saying he's a running back, which is still nuts. That talent he would go in the top 10. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the evolution. I think everybody understands that that's it. And as I said, for us, you have Lamar and Joe Burrow in our division. You're in the conference with Mahomes and Josh Allen. Not to mention there are good young quarterbacks. And I love Justin Herbert. I think he's a stud. C.J. Stroud's been very good. You're going to have to beat 2 of those guys to go win a Super Bowl. And now if the goal is to, and it would, by the way, it would be great to have these problems, but to be like who the Steelers are right now. Mm-hmm. Win 9 or 10 games every year, get bounced in the first round every year. I mean, they're wanting to run Tomlin out of town. The guy's never had a losing season. But we've won a playoff game more recently than them. But would you say that they probably have been the more successful franchise, but that's not the goal anymore. The goal is to be sustained success, yes, but to be able to actually win a Super Bowl. And so you can't do that without a quarterback.
Period. Point blank.
The end.
Yes.
That's it. End of the story. That's it. All right, Nathan. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time for us. I know you're a busy guy running around.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad we were able to make it work. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm still not 100% yet, but at least I can talk. Last week would have been very difficult because I really couldn't talk much.
I know it's that time of year too. It's ugly. I'm down here in Florida. We got sunshine, 75 degrees. Beautiful. Love it.
Yes. Well, I'm happy to check back in with you guys this too once we get through free agency and then we kind of have a better picture of everything. But always appreciate you guys having me on and got me hungry for barbecue. And I see 5-iron golf going across. I love golf. I love fish, the aquarium. Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, Nathan. Thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.